here with the stunning, the amazing, the incredibly gorgeous and talent. No, stop hitting me. Jesus.
Stop it.
Marie Avgeropoulos, hi, how you
doing? Hi, good.
I've watched you in the 100. You're good.
Oh, thank you.
You should probably keep doing that.
I picked the right career path, I hope.
I think you did.
Okay, phew, because I don't know what else I would do.
Well, I was reading that you used to be a drummer.
I still am a drummer.
You're still a drummer?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, which bands do you play in?
Oh, I've played in a bunch of bands over the years. Anything classic rock, that's what I prefer to play.
Okay,
yeah.
So what's your favorite sort of era? 80s, 70s, or?
70s, 80s. Stevie Nicks is like my idol. If I can,
I'm a big
switch places with anybody in life, it'd be her.
Okay, I'm a big Fleetwood Mac fan, so
yeah.
I'm totally with you on that one. Though Mick Fleetwood's the drummer there, he's a giant. He's a strangely huge human being. Yeah. Anyway, that's got nothing to do with what you do now, which is run around in the woods. And so I was reading, you used to be quite the tomboy. Like you were out, you were fishing, you were like having a great time. How much of that sort of translates across to something like the 100?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I don't complain a lot when I'm always like freezing cold and wet and dirty. Yeah, it's just been such a pleasure to play Octavia because I feel like she's been like 18 different characters almost rolled into one. So it never gets quite like platonic or boring playing her because she's always evolving and changing. And growing up, I've always wanted to have a horse. What little girl didn't? But it's a very expensive hobby, and my family growing up could never provide me with that luxury. So being on the 100 and now learning how to like ride horseback and while sword fighting is, just such an amazing thing to do for my job. I'm like, yes, this is fun. Yeah, I feel like a big kid.
As you were saying before, I think one of the great things about the 100 is that the characters do get to evolve so much. Mm-hmm. And something that kind of blew me away about when I was watching it, I was like, okay, here's a series where more than half the cast is women, and they're all written completely differently.
That's
and they're none of them are cutouts. Like no. And they're all evolving and all changing.
Yeah.
Like, do you see the show as sort of having and I hate to even use the word feminist, but a kind of a push in that direction?
Yeah, I definitely think the 100 is carved out the future for women in television, and there's so many shows nowadays that are doing that. So I'm just happy to be a part of that group. Yeah. And we just push the envelope in so many different ways and empower young women, and it's just been great to meet a lot of these fans all over the world in person and hear how we've inspired them when there's been days where young women haven't felt so strong and we're allowing them to feel empowered. So I'm just really, really happy to be a part of that.
And it's awesome to see a show where people can go, yeah, okay, the lead characters are women and they're the ones who are driving the drama and driving the action.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I think the way television film is changing is that women don't need men to get things done, to be a part of the 100 and, inspire these young girls that they can take control of their own lives, do things without a man's help, is just such a strong message, I think, that's still so important in the world.
It is, and it's a great show. Unfortunately, we've got to wrap it up there, but thank you so much.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Tell me, what are you doing here?
I'm just drawing my own little character design here. I'm developing a idea for my future exhibition, so I'm just trying to create the first piece for that exhibition. Yeah.
And what is your exhibition about, and where can we find it?
So I'm planning to have it at the Kinokuniya Gallery, and the exhibition is pretty much about the story of a prince that has to go through some adversities, and it's actually based on my unborn child, so it's going to be a storybook for them in the future. So that's the premise.
That's so sweet. Tell me about what else you have on display here at Supanova today.
So I have a lot of fan art here. It's just exploring different mediums and different styles with line art and digital painting. So it's just an exploration of my style, essentially. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to see what you come up with for your exhibition.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm with the lovely Lynette Noni, as opposed to all of the other terrible Lynette Nonis. But this is the only one I know. So, hi, how are you?
I'm so good, thank you.
Good. Now, tell me a little bit about the books that you're working on at the moment. This is your first trilogy?
Yes, actually it's a 5-book series.
Not a trilogy. What is it? A quintology?
Sure. Let's go with that.
That's not a word, but let's just go with it.
Well, let's just call it a series.
Yes. Tell us a bit about your series.
I can do that. Well, it's basically Harry Potter, Narnia, and X-Men rolled into one.
I'm really excited by Harry Potter and Narnia. Okay, they kind of go to, and then X-Men. Where do you have proper mutants?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's set in a fantasy world, but at a fantasy school, like a school for teenagers with supernatural gifts. So everyone has those kind of X-Men style gifts, and they're at a school, and they're in a fantasy world. So you got the trifecta of fantasy sci-fi.
So essentially, we're kind of doing the schooly stuff of Harry Potter, but with a little more training to be badasses.
Exactly like that. That should be the new tagline.
That's okay. You're the writer. I'm just the guy who does the interviews. So, what was it that started you down this path? Were there any books that you read that made you go, I need to do this?
Basically, it was the opposite. It was a lot of books I was reading that I wasn't enjoying, and I thought, why don't I try and write the book I want to read? And so it kind of was a result of all my favourite things all smashed in together, and it's turned into a book. So
I'm here with Lochlyn Munro. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, thank you.
Now, Lochlyn, you've been involved in a huge number of films over a huge number of genres. What's your favourite genre to work in?
Gosh. I would say probably my own sensibilities lend that to a little bit more of the lighter comedy genre, though I do enjoy action. I grew up as an athlete, so I love to do action movies as well. But I find that people sort of tend to want me to gravitate towards the comedy for the most part. But
does that mean you enjoy watching comedy the most?
I actually enjoy watching all genre. I must admit I've never been a huge horror film person.
Okay.
Up until I did Freddy vs. Jason. I mean, I knew about those movies and I'd seen them, but they weren't the ones that I gravitated towards. But I really enjoyed shooting that film. It was really
Have you watched more horror since working on films?
I would say yes, yeah. I think also too because of just the sort of the way that horrors are shot now. Not only are they, some of them are sophisticated, but the way that the film process and the editing can go and the CGI, they're actually, some of them are pretty brilliant, and pretty scary. Right?
I'm not a horror watcher because they're so scary. I get nightmares as it is.
Yeah. But I think in general, it's all, for me, I love a character development story. So whether it be a comedy, a horror movie, a drama, action, as long as I'm interested in who I'm watching, it doesn't really matter to me, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned that you were a bit of an athlete growing up.
Yeah.
What sort of athletics were you involved in?
Well, I'm a Canadian. And
Does that mean hockey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up in northern Canada, so I mean, I had 2 months of summer a year, really. So a lot of it was all about frozen sports, So my aspirations were to play hockey. And I broke my femur when I was playing hockey when I was about 19, and I was a musician in school.
Yeah.
And so
What did you play?
I played drums and I played a little bit of guitar, but mostly drums, and I sang in bands that I played with. So when I broke my leg, I thought, well, maybe I'll teach myself to play guitar because it's been I've always wanted to do that. Then when my hockey career didn't move on, I really enjoyed the music, and so I got back into playing music, and I used to play at little pubs and stuff in around Vancouver, Canada, where I started out, and then I got involved in film and television and improvisational theater, and then that's kind of where it all, So kind of a divine intervention, and this is where I ended up. Yeah, here I am, right?
And we're so glad you're here, but we are out of time, so I have to say goodbye, but thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.